Well, leaders split after the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Israel's allies, including the US, have slammed the move, while others are calling for support of international law. Cyprus, who has close ties with Israel, joined a growing list of countries in affirming that the court's decisions are binding. Slovenia has stressed that they will respect the arrest warrants for the Israeli and Hamas leaders, adding that they will fully comply. Ireland, meanwhile, says it will be prepared to arrest Mr. Netanyahu if he stepped foot into the country. Germany says it is looking into what the court's decision means for implementation in Germany. Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock says the country is bound by the court as a nation that recognizes the body and respects international law. China has urged the ICC to remain objective and fair and exercise its powers according to the law. The US, meanwhile, says that the court has no jurisdiction to issue the warrants, with President Joe Biden describing the move as outrageous. Hungarian leader Viktor Orban says he will invite his counterpart, Mr. Netanyahu, to visit and defy the court's decision. Israeli officials have banded together, slamming the arrest warrants as anti-Semitic. The ICC issued the arrest warrants on alleged war crimes committed by the Israeli and Hamas leaders. The court, however, does not have a policing body and will have to rely on member nations to enforce arrest. More than 120 nations, parties to the ICC, are obliged to arrest both Prime Minister Netanyahu and Gallant. But the two are untouchable in at least 40 member countries that do not recognize the ICC. And this includes the US and China. Now, for more on this, Benji Hyer joins us live now from Washington, D.C. Benji, the U.S. has slammed the ICC decision, claiming the court has no jurisdiction to issue the warrants. Did Washington's reaction come as a surprise?
Well, I think that ultimately what came from this was inevitable from both sides, both the ICC decision, the writing's been on the wall since those warrants were put out. And from Washington's perspective, I mean, their commitment to Israel, in their words, has been unwavering, even from the beginning of this conflict. President Joe Biden saying that the issuance of these arrest warrants against Israeli leaders was, quote, outrageous. He put out a statement to say, quote, whatever the ICC might imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. A reference there to the fact that one of the men listed in those warrants is a Hamas leader that Israel claims it killed in recent months. The administration continuing to say that it will always stand by Israel against its threats to its security. That is a perspective that we've heard across Washington the past 24 hours. The National Security Council, for example, echoing how it fundamentally rejects the decision by the ICC. It says the United States has been clear the ICC does not have jurisdiction over this matter, a reference to the fact that, for example, Benjamin Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant could both fly here and those warrants would not apply. That is because, whilst it does apply to 124 countries, it does not include the United States, which signed up to the Rome Statute, that part of the United Nations creation, the International Criminal Court, signed it all the way back in 1998, but never ratified it. And that means it is not legally required to actually enforce it. And it has said repeatedly that it will not do so if, for example, both of those two men decided to come again to American soil.
And having said that, Benji, will the ICC decision affect the U.S. military aid for Israel?
Look, that's an interesting question, because whilst there is broad bipartisan support for Israel, I mean, cast your mind back to a few months ago when Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, gave a joint address to Congress with multiple standing ovations on both sides of the political aisle. Yes, we'll take that into consideration. On the other hand, you do have some so-called progressive politicians stateside. Think of Senator Bernie Sanders, who ran for president himself twice. He did try to put through an effort on Wednesday, led by him and a handful of efforts, to try to block the sale of more than $20 billion of US-made weapons to Israel, push again for a ceasefire to try to end the carnage in Gaza. that ultimately fell short. And I think that goes to show where sentiments lie on Capitol Hill. I mean, the US has even hinted that it will launch sanctions against the ICC due to these arrest warrants. And if you think there's going to be a change of perspective there, well, ultimately it could go even further in the other direction. Donald Trump's presidency, his agenda indicates that his White House would be, again, staunchly supportive of Israel. His pick for National Security Advisor, Congressman Mike Waltz, has again slammed the court over these arrest warrants. He says the ICC, quote, has no credibility, and these allegations against Israel has been refuted by the US government. He, like Benjamin Netanyahu, calls these arrest warrants, quote, anti-Semitic.
Benji, thank you. Benji Hyer there reporting live from Washington, D.C.